Hello, I am Jason Palamara. I teach music technology at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, and I am here to talk about Avatar, which is a project I have pursued with Professor Scott Deal, also here at IUPUI. So the overview of the Avatar project is that we are building a machine learning enabled performance technology system. So that is a lot to say, but basically the point is that we want to use machine learning to create models of certain musical data sets so that we can use them in live performance. The model we have spent the most time on is the model of Scott Deal himself. Scott is an improvising percussionist. He has recorded hours and hours of performances and rehearsals and improvisations, recordings he's released. So it makes a lot of sense that we would use him as a model. So we've taken those recordings, we translate them into MIDI using a number of different processes, and then we develop a machine learning model. Then we have another system called Avatar.Player. The Avatar Player will actually play along just with those choices. And so then we also have another system called Avatar.Sig2. So it's taking a signal, an audio signal, and turning it into like an action signal that then fires the Avatar.Player. So using the whole Avatar system, the user can develop their own machine learning model of a given MIDI file, even if it's a very long file. The user can then use that to generate new music, and also they can use the Avatar listener so that they can fire that music and generate and play along with it, and it will respond dynamically to what it is you are playing as a player. So it creates this avatar of the composer that you built the model on. So using this system and the model that we created of Scott, which we call the Scott Deal avatar, he has performed all over the globe in improvised performances. First in Indianapolis, that was the premiere at a festival called Fata Morgana. And then later at Music Acoustica, and also at SICPP, and then also at NIME. He's going to be there. So this is something that Scott performs with continually. He's actually working on a lot of performances all over the place. It's something that he works with continually, and so this iteration of Avatar is our first iteration. We are going to keep going and develop more. But so that's the overview. So next I'd like to talk about how we put a session together. So we built Avatar in Ableton Live. It's a Max for Live device, or a series of Max for Live devices, which makes a lot of sense. Ableton Live is what Scott uses to perform. It has all of his that's sort of his home base for effects and triggering rather esoteric sounds. So that's what Scott is using. That's what I'm using. So it makes a lot of sense. So the first piece of the puzzle is the Avatar machine loader. So this is a very simple little patch here. Which just allows us to load in a MIDI file, then listen and develop the machine learning model, and then test it out, save it, so that we can call it up later. So So this is a MIDI effect. So once you load in a MIDI file, you listen to it in real time. Now that can take a while if you're talking about a very long MIDI file. So if you're talking about something that's like an hour-long piece, or if you're trying to get a machine learning model of many pieces by the same composer, this can take a while. But mainly, the important thing is that you load it in, you hit play, and then you can go have lunch or whatever it is. And when you come back, the model should be done. Throughout this whole project, one of our main concerns was that we wanted this to be super easy to use, so that the user didn't need to know anything specifically about machine learning. So that anybody with a knowledge of Ableton Live could get it, so that you could just sort of drop in and go. For that reason, and because we're using it live, the level of machine learning is a little bit below, is a good deal below what you might see coming out of like Magenta or one of these, certainly at IRCAM, one of these other places where like deep learning is going on. And it's because we want to do this quickly, and so we have to be a few steps back, because as amazing as much of the machine learning research is that's happening out there in the world, a lot of it takes a while. Even if you're talking about 10 seconds, if it can process in 10 seconds, we don't want 10 seconds of lag. We want the thing to respond right now. And we can't have giant procedures going on, because it has to be relatively quick. So working with MIDI files, working with listening, this helps us to be a lot quicker. That said, this does listen and learn in real time. That's because another thing we're trying to grasp is the timing factor, of the rhythmic and duration, the rhythms and the duration of the original model, because that factors into what the player plays as well, that it listens to. So the next thing, once you've saved your model, we then go over to the player. Okay, so the player basically has this interface where you can load the model. So if I want to use the Scott Deal model, I just click Deal. It takes a second to load in. So anytime it receives a sharp attack, it will send out a bang, which will actually send MIDI data out to the grand piano. Then it has a number of this interface here actually controls behavior. So it has a conscious mode, so you can basically I sort of thought of this was early on. This sort of was like it was nice to have a way to just say, turn the thing on and just test the sound and get the sound right, and then shut it off. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, that really makes a lot of sense to have that as part of the device, that you can just sort of like let it go on its own. One thing that I'm working on is the ability to like have it decide when it should play on its own, without human interaction, but that kind of gets into an even crazier area. So these are the behavior modes. So if you choose, for instance, novelty. Novelty is just straight Markov decisions, So so it's based on what is the likelihood that an A goes to an E, that an E goes to a B, whatever it is. So that tends to be it tends to sound very randomized. The other thing, so originally that was the only model or the only way of using the model. The more we played around with it, I came up with this idea of filtering these behaviors through behaviors that I was seeing when I would listen to Scott's performance. So sometimes, being that he's a percussionist, he would just repeat notes, and it would just be different rhythms with with the same note, or a grouping of notes. So I built a little subpatch that will actually use the same machine learning model, but it filters it through this like tendency toward repetition of notes. Then four notes that sort of cycles around through four favored notes. So that's taken from the machine learning. It sort of says like, what are the most favored notes? I'm going to pull those out. So there are like different tiers of favored notes. It sort of grabs them like, so like C sharp, F sharp, A flat, and another F sharp. So then sometimes there are chords that play, so it just plays them in like long chunks and strings. And then sometimes, as we got into it, I thought, well, sometimes it would be nice if it just listened to what you were doing and responded in kind. So this is sort of a new feature, but it's basically doing live pitch analysis of what it's hearing. So all of that analysis is not actually happening in this track. So this is a MIDI track that is merely just responding and playing. So this is where the system actually does the analysis. So what this sig to Dyna is actually doing is it's listening to audio. So if I can send it audio from this drummer here. Sorry, from this drum machine. So when it hears the drums, it responds and plays. So what it's doing is it's recognizing a sharp attack. We're using bonk to do that, specifically the bonk tilde object, the 64-bit version by Volker Bohm. And we sort of break it up, and there's a sensitivity knob here. I have found that 76 is just about perfect for just about everything we do, but I left the sensitivity knob there just in case somebody else had a different experience. Then it's actually measuring the amplitude, and it's chunking that up into a dynamic range, so you can see that it's actually giving us an approximation of musical dynamics. And then that's breaking it up into velocities, and it sends all of that data to the avatar player. So some other things to note. Since the realm we're dealing with is we're spitting out a MIDI signal, there's no reason why it has to be a grand piano sound at the end. That's what I commonly use just for testing. But we also have a number of sample instruments that we've developed from Scott Deal's own sounds. So in performance, he will use those. Sometimes he will use other sounds that he's recorded or sample packs. But you could use it you could use basically any sample-based instrument that you wanted, or synthesizer. We have also experimented with outputting the MIDI information to control a disclavier, so that you can actually have a sort of live instrument that's actually playing along. So we are continuing to work on that. Scott has a number of other performances for the rest of the year. And another word about the various MIND files that come with the player. So we've developed a Scott Deal model, which is probably the most well fleshed out machine learning model we've got in here. There is also a model based on J.S. Bach. That is primarily from his inventions. We've also done one on Vince Guaraldi here. That's the one called Linus. That's a very small model that I was playing with that seemed to really strike our fancy. This one is based on my own music. Palamara. Step Giant is John Coltrane. Right is Rite of Spring. Duke is Duke Ellington. These are just sort of some models that we played around with, but it could be basically anyone. And you have the ability to browse for your own model, and you can save it just as an Ableton Live device just by clicking the Save button. So what I'm going to do now is I'll play a little demo just of the Scott Deal player. So the drummer is the thing that's actually triggering the avatar listener, and that's triggering the avatar player with the grand piano. So I'm going to mute my microphone and let it rip for a couple measures. So as you can see, as I was bringing the levels down, it was responding dynamically. Once you stop, it doesn't play anymore, and you can take in any audio input into the listener. So if I were to switch it to my microphone, I could trigger it with my voice. Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Hello. So that is an overview of the avatar system. We are currently still developing things and going forward from this point. This is sort of a initial stab at this issue, and we're going to keep working. So thank you for your opportunity. Thank you for watching, and I welcome your comments and questions.